Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The morning traffic roared past the fourth-floor apartment window, but Carter Hayes didn't hear any of it. He was too busy watching the way his wife, Vanessa, adjusted the cuff of her tailored blazer in the reflection of the hallway mirror. She looked flawless, as always, her auburn hair pinned up in a chic bun, lips the color of ripe berries, and posture poised like a magazine cover shoot. But it wasn't her beauty that caught Carter's attention. It was her left hand. Again, bare. "You forgot your ring," he said casually, nodding toward the jewelry tray by the sink. Vanessa didn't flinch. "Oh, I never wear it at work. It gets in the way when I type." Her voice was light, dismissive, practiced. "But you don't sit at a desk," Carter reminded her, raising an eyebrow. "You show luxury homes." "Exactly." She leaned down and kissed his cheek. "Some clients are nosy. It's easier not to give them things to ask about. You know how it is in sales. Perception is everything." He smiled, said nothing, but something inside him curled. Carter wasn't the jealous type. At least, he hadn't been before Vanessa. He believed in boundaries, in trust, in letting people be who they were. But trust, he had learned, was not the same as denial. And the moment you start explaining away red flags with logic, you're already halfway to drowning. That afternoon, while working from his modest design studio downtown, Carter received a text from his friend Jackson, a rooftop party photo, laughing faces, and bottles glinting under string lights. "Your girl's still a rock star," the message said, followed by a winking emoji. Carter opened the photo. Vanessa was front and center, laughing with her head tilted back, hand resting lightly on a man's chest. A man Carter didn't recognize. But what made his stomach knot wasn't the man. It was the absence of something. Her wedding band. She'd said it was about professionalism, image, distraction. But this wasn't a work event. It was personal. And her finger? It was bare. He didn't bring it up that night. Instead, he watched her like a man watches the ocean after spotting a shark. He made dinner. They talked. She laughed. And he filed every moment into a mental folder labeled, "Watch closely." Days passed. Patterns emerged. She removed the ring before leaving every morning, not just on days she had showings. Her phone tilted away from him when she texted. The calendar on her phone had mysterious meetings blocked in code, lunch with P, and midtown drop-in. Her laptop had a hidden Chrome profile, locked with a different password. Carter wasn't a fool. He was a quiet man, steady, with a patience that came from years of sculpting design projects down to the millimeter. And like a designer, he knew how to dismantle what he built, cleanly, carefully, without leaving a single rough edge behind. He stopped asking questions and started looking for answers. One night, while Vanessa showered after her client dinner, he opened her laptop. The password was her childhood dog's name, a detail she'd once shared casually after 3 glasses of wine. It worked. There it was, a second Instagram account under her maiden name. DMs filled with emojis, late-night meetups, inside jokes. And one contact name stood out, Preston. Preston knew what side of the bed she slept on. He knew about Carter's car trouble the week before. He knew the names of Carter's nephews. This wasn't just a fling. This was an affair built on routine. Intimacy. A second life carved out in stolen hours. Carter screenshotted everything. Every message. Every timestamp. He copied her digital calendar. He saved photos of the jewelry tray, empty each morning. He made no confrontations. He simply collected truth like tools. The next morning, Vanessa kissed him goodbye. "Big client today. Wish me luck." He smiled. "You'll kill it." Then he watched the door close and whispered, "So will I." By the time Vanessa had reached the corner of the block, Carter had already canceled the Tuscany trip. It was supposed to be their 5-year anniversary celebration. Sunlit vineyards, hand-in-hand dinners, a luxury villa. He'd paid for the entire thing 6 months in advance. She had picked the dates, the destination, even the color of the rental car. But now, refund requested. Funds rerouted to a personal account in his name only. The next move was even easier. Their joint savings, about $78,000 saved slowly over the last 4 years, was transferred into a new account under the legal claim of suspicious activity thanks to an option his bank allowed for security reviews. All she'd see if she logged in was, "Transaction under review. Please contact your branch." She wouldn't get past the login. He didn't stop there. The apartment lease was under his name, so he gave 30 days notice. A clean break. Utilities? Shut off at the end of the billing cycle. Her gym membership? His credit card? Canceled. Her Audi lease? Also on his credit. Declined at next payment. Carter didn't act out of rage. He didn't scream, didn't argue. He planned. He moved in silence. And while Vanessa posted sunny selfies at work, carefully crafted captions underneath each, Carter visited a quiet law firm downtown, in a brick building with no name on the door. Discreet. Efficient. They didn't blink when he showed them everything. The messages, the dual calendars, the photos, the bank statements. They offered advice, then silence. Then action. "You're doing this smart," the lead attorney, Mr. Bowers, told him. "She'll never see it coming. We'll have papers drafted by Monday." Carter left the office lighter. Not because he felt victorious. Because he felt prepared. That weekend, he watched her closely. Vanessa came home with shopping bags, a new dress slung over her arm. "There was a sale," she said breezily. "I thought I'd treat myself." "To what?" he asked. She blinked. "Happiness," she said with a small laugh. "You know me." Carter didn't know her. That Monday he packed. Not everything. Just the essentials. His ID, his laptop, a week's worth of clothes, and the documents he needed. Then he left his key on the counter, locked the door behind him, and moved into a short-term furnished apartment on the other side of the city. He turned off his phone. When he turned it back on that evening, 20 notifications hit at once. Declined auto payments. Missed calls. Texts. "Vanessa." "Carter?" The car lease bounced. "My card's frozen. What's going on?" He waited. Let her stew. Let her panic. Then he sent her an email. No subject. No message. Just attachments. Photos. Screenshots. Her words to Preston. His replies. Her appointment logs. No explanations. Just facts. When the phone rang 2 minutes later, Carter let it buzz. "This isn't what it looks like," she texted. "Please let's talk. This can't be how it ends." It wasn't how it ended. Not yet. At 10:46 p.m., there was a knock on his Airbnb door. He didn't open it. "Carter," she yelled. "What kind of man disappears like this? Are you punishing me?" He answered without opening the door. "Since when do clients text you, 'I miss your mouth'? Since when do business meetings happen in hotel suites?" There was a long silence. Then a small voice. "I didn't think you'd find out." Carter opened the door slightly. Vanessa stood there in yoga pants, hair tied up, no makeup, no ring. "I made a mistake," she said. "No," Carter replied. "You made a decision." She cried, begged, said she missed him, that their marriage meant something, that she just got lost, that she was scared, that she needed him to understand. But Carter didn't need to understand anymore. He needed peace. "I loved you enough to believe you," he said. "You loved yourself enough not to care." He shut the door, and this time it stayed shut. The next 3 days were quieter than any Carter had known in years. The noise, the emotional static, the gut uncertainty, the second-guessing, was gone. In its place was stillness. An eerie, almost unfamiliar calm. He spent his mornings at a local cafe with his sketch pad, his afternoons freelancing on client work, and his evenings watching the sun go down from the second-story patio of his new apartment. Vanessa, meanwhile, was unraveling. She tried calling, texting, emailing, reaching out to his sister, to his best friend Nate, even to his old college mentor, anyone who might answer. She posted vague messages online, quotes about forgiveness, personal growth, and new chapters. Carter read every one of them and said nothing. But she made one fatal move. She played the victim. To friends, she told a story of abandonment. That Carter had frozen their finances in a fit of jealousy. That he had disappeared after a disagreement. That he overreacted to a harmless flirtation. But Carter didn't need to defend himself. Truth, he learned, had a sharp edge. It didn't need to shout. It just needed to be seen. So he sent one message. Not to Vanessa. Not to his friends. To Preston's wife. Her name was Jillian Knox, a pediatric nurse based in Connecticut. Carter found her tagged in an old Christmas photo, Preston in a hideous sweater, Jillian glowing beside him. The caption read, 12 years married, and still my safe place. Carter's message was simple. Hi Jillian. I know this is difficult. I'm sorry to bring this to you, but I believe it's something you deserve to know. My name is Carter Hayes. Your husband and my wife, Vanessa, have been involved in an affair for several months. I've attached proof, screenshots, timestamps, messages. I'm not looking to cause harm, just clarity. I wish you peace, whatever you choose to do next. She replied 2 days later. I suspected. Thank you for confirming. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Jillian. And with that, the story began to fall apart for them both. Preston was removed from 2 major luxury condo projects. His firm had a strict zero-tolerance policy for professional misconduct. Several high-end clients Vanessa worked with began pulling out after anonymous tips reached their inboxes. Screenshots, photos, the kind of digital whispers that leave no fingerprints but spread like wildfire. It wasn't Carter who sent them. It was the truth, rising like smoke from a fire Vanessa had built herself. Within a week, she was suspended from her firm. Another week later, her real estate license was placed under ethics review. Carter watched it all unfold from a distance. He never gloated, never pushed, never added fuel to the fire. That wasn't his way. This wasn't about destruction. It was about exposure. By the end of the month, Carter received a call from an unfamiliar number. Mr. Hayes? This is Alan Greer from Parkridge Realty Compliance Division. I just want to let you know we've completed our review. I haven't made a complaint, Carter said plainly. I know, the man said, but you should also know someone did. And several clients submitted documents that aligned with the timeline. Vanessa was asked to resign this morning. Carter said nothing. Alan paused, then added, for what it's worth, it's good you didn't confront her. This was surgical. Carter hung up. That evening, he stood in the quiet of his apartment, a gentle jazz record spinning in the background, holding a glass of chilled water. No liquor, no celebration, just stillness. And that's when the knock came again. Vanessa. She stood at the door, face pale, eyes ringed with fatigue. She looked nothing like the curated powerhouse realtor she'd once been. Her shoulders drooped. Her bag was worn. Her voice barely carried when she said, I lost everything. Carter didn't invite her in. Why are you here? She blinked. I just needed to see if you're still angry. I'm not angry. Her lip trembled. Then why does it still hurt so much? He tilted his head. Because you lost something real. I just lost the illusion of it. She didn't argue. She just stood there, hands in her pockets, nodding. I start therapy next week, she said softly. I thought that might matter. I hope it does, Carter replied. But not for me. For you. Vanessa looked up at him, like she still hoped there might be a way back. But Carter? He was already gone. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning. Quiet, clean, efficient. Carter didn't feel a pang when he signed them. No grief, no longing. Just a weight lifting, a door unlocking. The kind of peace you only recognize after years of holding your breath. Vanessa didn't contest the terms. She couldn't afford to. Legally, financially, emotionally, he held every card, and she knew it. All she asked for was dignity in the process. He gave her that, not because she earned it, because he had nothing left to prove. Weeks passed. Autumn came, dusting the streets with leaves and gold light. Carter picked up more freelance work. His client list expanded through quiet referrals, and he started working with a boutique architecture firm that appreciated his clean designs and reliable demeanor. The space he rented was small but flooded with light, perfect for someone rebuilding quietly. And one Thursday afternoon, at a gallery opening in Soho, he met Natalie. She wasn't flashy, didn't wear expensive perfume, or carry herself like a woman who needed to be seen. She laughed at awkward jokes, wore hand-painted earrings, and stood in front of an abstract sculpture like it held a secret only she understood. They ended up talking over wine and cheese cubes. Nothing flirtatious, just honest. She was a textile designer, recently moved from Oregon. Divorced too, amicably, years ago. Her presence wasn't loud, but grounding. There were no games, no distractions, just attention. They started walking together, first in parks, then through flea markets, bookshops, farmers markets. It was slow, steady, no declarations, just peace. One evening, as they sat on a bench watching kids feed ducks by the lake, Natalie asked, Do you ever think about her? Carter didn't flinch. Not really. Not out of anger. Just, I don't need to. Natalie nodded, then smiled gently. You don't seem like a man who holds grudges. I don't, he replied. I just hold on to lessons. He'd learned plenty. He learned that silence can be louder than rage. That loyalty is shown in the smallest routines. That when your gut speaks, you better listen. And most of all, that healing wasn't about finding someone new to patch old wounds. It was about realizing you were never broken, just betrayed. And there's a difference. Meanwhile, Vanessa faded from the city's spotlight. Her real estate license was eventually reinstated, but no firm would touch her. She started doing low-level listings, moving out of the luxury market. Her carefully curated image cracked beyond repair. Rumors floated. Preston moved states. Jillian, his wife, filed for separation and relocated with her kids. The couple that once paraded around town like the king and queen of sleek success were now silent echoes in their own circles. Carter never sought updates, but people loved sharing them anyway. And each time they did, he only had one response. I hope she finds peace. Not sarcasm, not pity, just honesty. Because Carter didn't win by destroying her. He won by surviving her, by reclaiming his time, his sanity, his truth. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge is silence that never had a scream. It had been 6 months. 6 months since the knock on the Airbnb door. 6 months since Carter chose to shut it instead of letting her back in. Since he looked the person he once promised forever to in the eye and realized she had traded forever for 15-second thrills and one-bedroom lies. And now, Carter Hayes lived differently. He didn't measure time in business lunches or scheduled date nights or social media anniversaries. He measured it in morning coffee, still hot, in his favorite chipped mug. In long, uninterrupted walks at dusk with no destination. In sketch pads filled with ideas that weren't filtered through the lens of someone else's approval. He rented a modest one-bedroom near Fort Greene Park. Quiet, leafy, full of dog walkers and artists and retired musicians who still played trumpet by the bench near the fountain. The kitchen didn't have marble countertops. The bed creaked. The heater clanked. But for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel suffocating. It felt sacred. He saw Natalie often. Not every day. Not with obligation. But enough. Some days they met at cafes and worked beside each other, each immersed in their own craft. Other days they shared dinner, takeout or grilled sandwiches, nothing fancy, and fell asleep on the couch with an old movie playing in the background. There were no labels, no declarations, just mutual respect, gentle interest, and unspoken kindness. He hadn't told her the full story. Not yet. She knew the outline. There was betrayal. There was healing. There was moving on. But not the fine print. Not the 3 a.m. panic attacks he never voiced. Not the way he once deleted messages before reading them, terrified they'd be more lies. Not the look on Vanessa's face when he said the words, "You loved yourself enough not to care." And that was okay. Some truths didn't need to be retold. They needed to be lived past. One evening, while dusting off a shelf in his apartment, Carter found the envelope again, the one he'd sealed after the divorce was finalized. Inside were 2 items, a folded copy of the wedding vows he'd once written, and the final email he'd sent to Vanessa, the one with the evidence. No words, no accusations, just truth. He read them both again, and for the first time, they didn't sting. They didn't feel like endings anymore. They felt like confirmations. That he had tried, that he had loved, that he had walked away not because he gave up, but because she did. That was something no one could take from him. Later that night, Natalie texted, "Clear skies. Want to walk the bridge?" He replied, "Always." They met on the Brooklyn Bridge, right where the midpoint gave way to a view of the city. She wore a scarf over her curls and held 2 coffees in one hand. As they walked, she asked, "Do you ever wonder what you'd say if you ran into her again?" Carter thought about it for a moment. "I think I'd thank her," he said honestly. Natalie raised an eyebrow. He continued, "Not for what she did, but for showing me who I could become after, who I needed to be." She smiled, and in that moment, Carter realized he had rebuilt everything, not in spite of the betrayal, but through it, because of it, not with rage, not with vengeance, not with cruelty, but with quiet decisions, with slow mornings, with boundaries that didn't bend, with choosing himself, one day, 1 hour, 1 breath at a time. As they stood at the railing, watching the city breathe beneath them, Natalie leaned into him and whispered, You're not like most men. And Carter, steady and whole, just smiled. I know. Because the strongest revenge isn't rage. It's becoming everything they try to make you doubt. And walking away with your soul untouched.